Hi, I'm Susan. Today I'm going to talk to you about the spirit books, which is an ongoing work of mine that I first started in 1992 using natural materials. And first I'm going to just show you one of them. This is a small one that I made with the intention of keeping it for myself and in my collection. So the spirit books have three parts. There is the book, there is a cradle of what I call a cradle of natural materials that the book sits on, and then there is a base of binder's board and paper that it sits on. So when I made the first spirit book, I had already been making books for several years, but it did not grow out of my interest in bookmaking. It grew out of my response to natural materials. So we had done a big pruning in our yard. I had brought in tons of vines and sticks and pieces of all kinds of materials. And I spent a long time trying to figure out how I was going to turn this into some kind of art that honored and celebrated the spirit of nature. So I tried a lot of things and kind of put a lot of thought into it. And then there was one day that I just took some big, thick grapevines, made a cradle, and made a book to sit in it. And it was like, aha, this is the way forward with this idea of celebrating nature. And it just came to me. I mean, I have no, as I said, I have no memory of a sequence of thoughts that led me there. It just happened. And so as I worked on them, I tried to keep that same openness. And so I'm still making them, and I'm in the hunt. I number them so that I'm in the low, like 105, 107, something like that. So the process of them is to make, I try to make it as organic as possible and put as little like intellectual thought into it. So the first thing I start with is the cradle or the base, and not the base, the cradle. And once I have made that, then I figure out the details of the book. So the first thing is to figure out the paper I'm going to use. The second, then I go on to figure out what size the book is going to be. Then I cut and tear the pages, and everything is torn, there's nothing cut, because I want it to look as organic as possible. I like to think that if I went to the woods, I put one on the ground, if you were walking, you would just walk right by it. I want it to feel that natural and blend in that much. So then after I've torn the pages, then I figure out what I'm going to put on in terms of a design or a pattern. Every page has content in it. They're all very similar, but there are differences. And my idea is if you are turning the pages, it will be like a meditation. Then I sew the book, after I've got all the pages done, I sew the book together. And then I look and see, you know, does this work? And the thing about this process, I feel, as I said, the word organic, it just sort of grows from itself. The one thing about that is sometimes the pieces, sometimes they just don't end up working. So in the beginning, when I was doing it, like the first 20, 30, there were some that I would make and I would be like, this just really doesn't work. So sometimes I was able to reuse parts of the book, but sometimes it was just, that's over. And it was challenging to me to not get impatient with this process. I was kind of believing like this is the way it has to be done, but sometimes that was a challenge. And so there's a quote from Letters to a Young Poet from Rainer Maria Rilke that I would like to read because it just really, it gave me a lot of strength to kind of keep this way of working. And I kept that way of working. So the challenge beyond the spirit books is that this is the way I want to work, and to keep that same way of working, to, you know, do the minimum amount of planning necessary and have everything else just unfold. So I'm going to close with this, reading this passage from Letters to a Young Poet. A year doesn't matter, 10 years are nothing. To be an artist means not to compute or count. It means to ripen as the tree, which does not force its sap, but stands unshaken in the storms of spring, with no fear that summer might not follow. It will come regardless, but it comes only to those who live as though eternity stretches before them, carefree, silent, and endless. I learn it daily, Learn it with many pains, for which I am grateful. Patience is all. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.